Hey everybody, my name is Russ. That is Lauren. We recently did a video on the channel on our Thursday music discussion videos about 5 great singles from the year 1990 because, as I said in that video, I think 1990 really doesn't get all the love that it deserves because 89 was a big year for music. 91 was a huge music year. So I'm going to talk today about some records that came out in 1990 that I think, in the interest of full disclosure, I think everyone knows all of these records, but I think people forget when exactly they came about.
Sure.
First one on the list is Listen Without Prejudice, Volume 1 by George Michael, which is from September 3rd of 1990. And like this guy had so much to live up to coming out of Wham. And Faith is so good that it not only lives up to, but I would argue exceeds every expectation that would have been put on him. Okay. So then where does that leave you?
I know.
Right. So, and then his whole image issue and everything that was going on with, at the time, the issues where, sexuality and whatnot was still very much not spoken about out in public, especially to do with celebrities and whatnot. There's that joke in Austin Powers where he's like, "Oh, and Liberace was gay. Who knew?" Like that's a thing.
Yep.
People didn't know those types of things. And somebody like George Michael, I feel like I don't want to reduce him to just his sexuality or sexual preference. I feel like he had a struggle as a person because of what his employers wanted him to be presented as. And to me, that's to make it more relatable. Cause a lot of times people will just be like, oh, well, boo-hoo billionaire, like then don't be a rock star. Right. But like, if you go into your job and they ask you to be something different than you are, then that's going to be a struggle, you
Right.
know? So that is why I think Listen Without Prejudice is so impressive, because he not only, I mean, I have in my notes here, Praying for Time and Freedom 90. If that album was just a 7-inch single for those two songs, it would still be a statement and a half.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I feel like this is not the album per se, but like the video for Freedom 90, like that's the statement. That's the statement right there. You know, it's like, I don't need to look any certain way. So
yeah,
look at these instead.
Yeah. And then the symbolism of burning the faith jacket and all that.
Yeah.
It's a monster record. But it's one of those things that I don't think anybody really remembers when exactly it was released because of how incredible 89 and 91 were.
Oh, for sure. Literally, the only reason I remember is because Freedom 90 is called Freedom 90. That's the only reason.
Yeah, that's
I
true
remember.
Too. Yeah. The next one on the list is the second album by Extreme, which is correctly titled Extreme 2 Pornography. And this is one of those records that it's, in my opinion, is a hard misnomer. You hear me complain about this all the time, that well, Nevermind came out in 1991 and then everybody forgot everything except for alternative music. Bands like Extreme have a hard argument against that. This album didn't even come out until August of 1990 and had legs well past that. I mean, they still performed the entire record live at Extreme shows time and again. And then as far as just singles, before I worry about everything else on the record that's just monster, More Than Words, of course, Decadence Dance, Get the Funk Out, Wholehearted. Wholehearted's kind of dicey because it wasn't on the original pressings of the record, but then it was released as a single and got added to the represses. But still, if you go buy a CD copy of Pornography, it's going to have More Than Words on it, or I'm sorry, Wholehearted. But I mean, they had huge success. Obviously, More Than Words was the big, huge single for that. But I would argue the other songs had just as good a success. And I think that even in those singles alone, you could listen to any one of them and go, oh, this band is so much more than just the More Than Words guys.
They are more than words.
Yes, that's true. Another band from that same era, actually, the next two are going to be kind of bands from that same era. And I would argue that at least one of them has reinvented himself quite a bit. People forget that the first Black Crowes record came out in 1990.
You could not make me believe this.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm like, I still don't. I'm presented with the fact right now, and I still don't believe that this came out in
Well,
1990.
I mean, the big thing they made a big splash with their first record, "Shake Your Moneymaker," but they also made an enormous splash with the follow-up album, "The Southern Harmony Musical Companion," which came out in '92. So it was a quick turnaround. That record, very famously written and recorded in 7 days, like it's ridiculous. But the first album was what kind of brought it to the dance was the Otis Redding cover, "Hard to Handle." You have "Twice as Hard," "Jealous Again." The big ballad most people know off the record is "She Talks to Angels," but there's another fantastic ballad on that album called "Seeing Things" that they would reinvent themselves several different times, the Black Crowes, but I feel like there's points on this first album where you can hear where they were going to end up, and "Seeing Things" is like that. Like if you listen to "She Talks to Angels," it's very of its time, and it sounds like a 1990 ballad. If you listen to "Seeing Things," I could play that song for someone and then play another Black Crowes song from 10 years later and tell them they're on the same album. People would think it was, it's just, it's a sounds like something they were going to grow into later. But yeah, "Twice as Hard," "Jealous Again." I mean, it's just loaded with great hits. They're also one of those bands where like that was the only time their original lineup was around. Like they immediately started switching out members after that, So, but yeah, the Black Crowes debut record, "Shake Your Moneymaker," very early released in 1990, and really stalled out for a while. But once it took off, and that's why I think a lot of people don't think of it until much later than that. Now, the next one is a band that I don't think has reinvented themselves in any way since then, but boy, are they still trucking. They are still around to this day. And I think this has got to be one of my favorite live albums of all time. And people don't realize how good this band really is until I play songs from this album for them. It's Tesla and the 5-Man Acoustical Jam. If you've ever heard a song if you're not a big Tesla fan and you've heard a song off of this, it's probably their cover of "Signs," which I think is funny because that's the original artist for that is the 5-Man Electrical Band. So that's how they came up with And then what's funny is "Signs" was released as a single on its own, but if you listen to it on the album, they cover "We Can Work It Out" and then go into "Signs" from there. And it always bummed me out that most people have never even heard the "We Can Work It Out," but all of their hits are on the record at the time. "Love Song," "Getting Better," "The Way It Is," "Heaven's Trail," all that stuff. But there's covers on the record that just show like how good and diverse Tesla is. Like I said, "We Can Work It Out" into "Signs" was a big hit single. But they cover "Lodi" by CCR, and it's so good. And one of my favorite things on it, because it's a live record, is they're like, we're gonna do a song. We're going to cover a song that's about a town that's not far from where we're from. And you hear some guy in the crowd goes, "Free Bird." And he goes, "No, we're not from Alabama." But they also cover the Stones. They do a great version of "Mother's Little Helper."
It's a great version of "Mother's Little Helper." I like it. I like it a whole lot.
And this album is one of those ones that I think people forget was in '90 because it came out so late. It came out in November of '90. So I think a lot of people are just like, "Oh, well, that's," like I don't think I bought it till the spring of '91.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much. Like this whole, your whole three little thing here in the middle with Extreme and then the Black Crowes and then Tesla. In my brain, like those bands don't exist at the same time with each other. And the fact that like, I'm like,
let alone put out those monster records.
Like, no, this doesn't, I don't understand.
Yeah, I know. And then let alone put out those monster records in the same year, right?
It's wild.
Yeah. And then here we go. I would argue this is just as big of a deal. And you talk about the diversity involved. Depeche Mode and the Violator LP. Like this came out in March of 1990 and just kept producing hits. Like they were just like, oh, here's another banger single. And this is a band who had a very strong following prior to this. I had never been into them much, but you have stuff like "People Are People" and "Just Can't Get Enough" and whatnot. A decade before this that people were into. Maybe not a decade, but like at least 5 years before. And they had a huge following, and then they blew up commercially before the media had decided that we needed to tag music as alternative, and this is well over a year before Nirvana released Nevermind. So another way that argument is invalid. but here's a band who in no way changed what they were doing and still made it to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same year as Extreme and the Black Crowes, and you know what I mean, it's insane. Now most people probably think of this record for Enjoy the Silence, but World in My Eyes, Policy of Truth, and Personal Jesus are all on this same record. It's insane.
I'm not like I'm having this whole thing. I'm looking at your notes. I know what's about to be happening, and everything that I'm seeing, I'm like, this can't all be at the same time.
I know.
I'm having a weird.
And what kills me about this is I have no disrespect to 1991. 1991's a monster year in music, but like, let's just give 1990 some credit here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, I mean, if you went and looked at the top 100 records for 1990, you wouldn't believe it. Like there's stuff like the Tesla record. I just happen to be passionate about that album.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably maybe in the top 40 of the year. Like there's other monster stuff that people don't even think about from that year. So, but yeah, hopefully your mind is blown as well as Lawrence was. And if you have, we haven't done this in a while where we've focused on a single year. Like if you have a year that you want us to try and go back and focus on the big hit singles or maybe underrated songs from that year or what was so great about that year, like any one of our series, by all means, drop a comment, let us know. Let us know what you think of some other great albums that came out in 1990 that other people have forgotten, because if nothing else, I'd love for her to see the comments and keep being like, oh my Lord, that too, you know.
Yep. It's gonna happen.
You always hear us say this, and you hear it on every single YouTube channel, but I assure you it does help us out a lot if you hit the like button on a video. It's free for you to do, and I know you hear the word algorithm and all that stuff all the time, but like it really does help us out in the algorithm a great deal if all you do is hit the like button on the video. That really does help. If you haven't seen our reactions on the weekends or our vinyl review videos, we have those on the weekends as well. If you hit the notification bell, then it'll pop up and tell you every single time we're going to bestow a new video upon you. So that is Lauren. My name is Russ. And as we always say, thank you so much for watching.